Murderous Minds should not be on Amazon Prime. This is not a TV show. This is a glorified podcast. And it's not all bad. There are aspects of it that I think are quite good, and I will talk about those positives. But when you go onto Amazon Prime and you look at the true crime documentaries, I have seen many of them on there, and they're all decent, high quality, probably high budget productions that have a lot of people involved and incorporate a lot of different footage and interviews and things like that for quality viewing. Murderous Minds is a slideshow with a voiceover, and it definitely belongs on YouTube. I think it's, there are some good things about it. It's well researched. The narrator's voice he sounds bored. He sounds like he's not interested. And I know you can't talk too excitably when you're talking about serious crimes, but there's a fine line between, being respectful and being monotonous. But the words that are being said are fascinating, are interesting, are informative. On screen, as I said, it's basically a slideshow of images and occasional videos, some reconstructions, and they're fine. But I feel like this is better as a podcast as such. I'll be honest, I haven't watched the whole series. There are 8 episodes, and I just couldn't get past 4 of them. I just thought, this is not what I wanted. I wanted a nice, detailed, well put together TV series, and this is just not what it is. The other thing that really annoyed me is that the episodes are all different lengths. I think the shortest one's about 20 minutes, the longest one's just under an hour. Now, having 20 minutes only on Harold Shipman is quite shocking, because that's an exceptionally detailed case. There are so many documentaries about Harold Shipman. This should be much longer. Maybe it's an abridged version. I don't know. But if I viewed it as a podcast with some interesting accompanying images, yes, interesting. Not the most lively tone of voice to get you engaged, but informative, well-researched. Definitely, the narrator or whoever wrote the script is definitely knowledgeable on these subjects. But as I said, it's not a TV show. The images that are used are sometimes interesting. I don't know if they had permission to use the images. I can't find out kind of who produced this. But I'm just going to assume that they had permission to use all of the images and footage in this. I wouldn't suggest otherwise. But they're repeated a lot. For example, every time a person is mentioned, the same image will appear on screen. Which, yes, a lot of big budget productions that are well developed do that as well. But that's in addition to interviews with professionals and, footage from interviews with the criminal, and often CCTV footage or other things from the time, photographs, crime scene images, things like that. This is, as I said, just a glorified slideshow. If you like podcasts and you like true crime podcasts, I think Murderous Minds Inside Serial Killers you might find interesting. Because as I said, factually, it was fascinating. It's not perfect, but it's interesting enough. But if you're looking for a TV show, this isn't a TV show, and I don't understand why it's on Amazon Prime, because it's, compared to everything else that I've watched on Prime, I've probably watched about 20 or 30 of their true crime shows. That's including on things like crime and investigation. This is not up to the standard of Amazon Prime shows, or shows that they are allowed to show. This is not. This belongs on YouTube, and as a YouTube video, if I were to come across this on YouTube, I'd think, yeah, this is well researched, this is pretty interesting, but not as something one would expect to find on Prime. So I think it's really poorly distributed. I don't know how much they paid, or how much they get for this, but, credit to them if Prime's paying them, but I don't think they should be. Just quickly, it looks at Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Jack the Ripper, Andrei, Chikatilo, Harold Shipman, as I said, Ed Gein, Klebold and Harris, and Josef Mengele. And, that's a pretty notorious bunch. I'd say some are more notorious than others. The Jack the Ripper one seems a little bit out of place. And as I said, about 20 minutes for Harold Shipman is a bit shocking. as there are many documentaries that are very detailed, and there's certainly a lot more to be said about this case. I will say, credit where credit is due, it's unbiased. There are many documentaries where there is a level of bias towards usually the victims. This one is unbiased. It is just factual. There is no, obviously because there are no interviews, there's nobody passing judgment or saying or speculating. It's just fact. And as a podcast or, like a narrated, an audiobook or something, that's fine. But it's not what it's being advertised as. It's being advertised as a show with episodes and a season, and it's absolutely not that. So don't go in expecting that. If you like podcasts, yeah, by all means, give it a go. Once you kind of get used to the narrator's voice style after a while, you think, well, yeah, okay. And then suddenly you just find yourself focusing on the words rather than how they're being said. So persevere. As I said, I couldn't currently get past 4 episodes. Not necessarily the 4 that are in the first order, although I did start with Ted Bundy. But it's a massive disappointment in some ways. But if it was being honest about what it is, then maybe I wouldn't have been so annoyed at it. Maybe one day I'll finish those other 4 episodes. Give it a go if you like crime podcasts, but if you're looking for a good quality crime series, absolutely avoid.